Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and season greetings from Portage Valley Flying Club. What follows is a presentation of our Christmas party. For anyone that wasn't able to make it or wishes to view it again, we wanted to present it to you. So enjoy the show.
Let's see. A couple things. Mom, you wanted to come up. We really wanted to recognize the crew that keeps the airport looking nice and everything mowed and the place operating. You know, ordering gas and making sure that all those things are up to snuff. You want to say something?
Let me set it off. It's nice to see so many people here this evening. The word comes down from my brother and me too, that we thank everybody who maintains the airport and continues to make it look like our dad did 32 years ago. So we thank you. And I just had family here and they commented how neat it was.
Okay, a couple things here. I really wanted to recognize a couple special people. One is Jim Kujian, who's sitting right here. He decided to step up and take the role of treasurer upon retirement of Tex, who served the club for decades in that position and did a great job. And it was a lot for somebody to decide to try to take it over, but Jim's done that and done an excellent job, so I really appreciate that. And yeah, he claims that Colleen has helped out. And I know she's really the communications director. Whenever we get an email from Jim, it's really the Jim with blonde hair right there. But she's doing a great job too. And then also, I'd like to recognize Dawn Peters, because even through her knee replacement, removal, re-replacement, and healing, and everything, she's kept coming out and taking notes and been our secretary. I know it's not been easy. The whole walk for you has not been easy, but we really appreciate you. I just wanted you to know that as well. So yeah, another hand for her. Marilyn, you got something to bring up?
I do.
Could I have Kathy Willie come up, please?
Yeah.
No, you didn't win a ham. Yeah. Come on up. So, this is, they say behind every good man is a great woman. And we have one right here. Because we all think that John Willie puts on the fish fry and the corn roast and the beef stew, which he does, but he has an incredible partner that helps him with that behind the scenes. And yeah, we want to recognize her for her help and all of those events. Thank you very much. All right, I got one more out here. If Mr. Kendall Peters could step up, please. Thank you. So many of you know that Kendall's been out at the airport working here over the summer and into fall. He started by cleaning up in the hangars and around the hangars, and the place has been accumulating aviation related and unaviation related stuff and junk for 75 years. And Kendall took it on himself to start sorting through stuff and scrapped a bunch of stuff, used that for funds for a project that we had going on, or he had going on, and just disposed of stuff in general. There was junk concrete, piles of concrete, there was all kinds of stuff. He regraded inside the hangars, done a tremendous amount of work just in that cleanup effort. But then beyond that, you've probably seen the pictures flashing here earlier where we poured a slab in the one hangar, right adjacent to where we have the meetings. And Kendall basically single-handedly built a storage shed in there. Probably did 98% of the work himself, and he donated virtually all the materials, stuff that he had salvaged from projects. If you haven't already seen it, you'll see it when you're out there for the next event. But it's a really nice storage building. We have all our tables and chairs in there now. Instead of having to haul stuff out of the clubhouse and bring out, now it's just a few steps to bring them out and set them up. But and also the door was donated by the Wiedemans. Tom Wiedemann had a real nice door. So between all those things, it all came together. Hang on one second here. Well, you can give Kendall a big hand for the story. So we're officially naming it Kendall's Closet.
There you go.
Just above the door. Yeah. And did we spell your name right? K-N-D-Y-L? Yeah. Everybody thinks, well, is that really how you spell Kendall? But that's how he spells. But that's how his mom spelled Kendall. So again, thanks a lot, Kendall. You did an amazing job at it. You deserve the credit for it, and it's going to be named after you. All right, very good. You can take this home with you.
And put it up when you get back to the airport.
All right. All right, one more thing here before we get to our presentation. After the presentation, we have mint ice cream? Peppermint ice cream. So we're going to start serving that right after our guest speaker here. And then following that, we're going to have the door prize giveaway, get a couple of Christmas hang-ups. So as soon as I'm sorry, yeah, the drawing for the door prizes. Everybody keep your ticket. Keep your ticket handy. All right, so our guest this evening, actually there's two guys came tonight. But many of you saw in the invitation, they completed that 48 and 48, which was basically flying an airplane. They had a 1980 Piper Saratoga that I believe was Barry's airplane. But they flew it for a new world record, both in the Guinness and the National Aviation Administration. They had to land in each of the 48 contiguous United States. So land, get a signature verifying that they were there, and do it all in less than 48 hours, which they did, and set new records for doing that. Chief pilot on that flight was our presenter tonight. He was a 1979 graduate of Napoleon High School. He started his flight lessons actually in 1978 before he graduated high school. And by the time he entered college at BGSU, he completed his private instrument and commercial ratings. Following his graduation from BGSU, he entered the Navy. He accumulated over 3,000 hours in the FA-18 Hornet. Hornet or Super Hornet? Hornet. He completed their Top Gun school. Also completed over 750 carrier-arrested landings on 9 different carriers. After 30 years of active service in the Navy, he retired, and then, that was after, and actually had 17 years of flight duty as well during those 30 years. But after he retired from the Navy, then he went to Delta Airlines, where he's flown as a flight engineer on 727, first officer on 737, 757, and A350, and now he's captain of 757s and A320s. Accumulated over 16,000 hours in 52 different types of aircraft. Currently, he's captain of that A320 for Delta Airlines, and he flies out of Detroit Metro. And then his co-pilot during that 48, I didn't do as much research. I apologize because I didn't know you were going to be here, Aaron.
I'll do it.
Yes, sir. Okay, well, I will just leave it to him, and yeah, enjoy the presentation, folks. Please give him a warm welcome. It's very
So it's pretty daunting to know that the only thing standing between you and peppermint ice cream is me.
Hurry up! I'm sorry.
Thank you, Dougie. Isn't it just wonderful having Doug in the room? Anyway, it's a pleasure being here. It's a great group that we've been talking to, and what an awesome place. I've never been into the airport out there where your flying club is, but I guarantee you this summer we're going to load up and go over there and do one of your events and check out your facilities over there. So tonight I've got with me my bride who endured all of the harebrained ideas and all the crap that went along, the administrative stuff with this whole venture. Thank you to Jenny and then also my second pilot, Aaron, is here as well, and I'll get into his bio. This is the first one I think that you've been at that I've given these presentations, so it's kind of odd having Aaron in the room with me, but it's good to have you with us here tonight too. So how many people know what a reel is? A reel. Like a social media reel? Oh my gosh, you know what a reel is? I didn't know what a reel was until I got into this whole thing. You know, I wasn't a social media person really, but when I got into this 48 and wanted to promote it and all this stuff, you got to get into that. But Aaron, being the younger guy that he is, 20 years my junior, he's into that social media stuff. So he made a reel for this. It's a little small, I think, in the screen. Hope you'll be able to see it. There's some audio. We'll see if it plays, but there we go. That's the presentation. Any questions? No, it's pretty awesome. He did that after the event came back, and just some clips there, some still shots and some videos and things from to kind of capture in a small little reel there, but we'll jump into this thing. So the logo that I came up with initially didn't have any words on it. It was just the airplane with compass rose on there. And I got thinking one day, it's like, wouldn't it be kind of neat to have in the fourth quadrant some different words in there. So I came up with the 4 words: dream, calculate, coordinate, and execute. So I'll just kind of throw out what it means to me and us at 48, what the words all mean. So the dream, this whole thing started like some stuff does. Let me get back here. Come on. So a lot of things start out with a dream. Some dreams fall by the wayside, we don't act on them, and some dreams we jump on and we start to look into it if we could do it. So the dream for this came on a flight on the 25th of October going from Minneapolis to Los Angeles. I was talking to a first officer in my right seat in the A320. I told him I had my own airplane and we're talking, and he said, yeah, there are these guys in Michigan, in Detroit City, they tried to set this Guinness World Record by landing in all 48 states. They had a goal of 48 hours as well. So my wheels started turning. This is a picture here. They tried to do it in a Rockwell Commander. They're out of Detroit City. So they left Caledonia County Airport in Lydenville, Vermont, 8:30 in the morning on the 9th of September 2021. And they got 18 landings in and landed down in Marianna, Florida after those 18 landings at 10 o'clock in the evening, and they had a propeller governor problem. So they had a mechanical issue with the airplane. They bedded the airplane down, they got up the next day, they got it flyable, and they saw they were going to bust their time. They weren't going to make their goals, so they turned around and came home back to Detroit City. There was talk that they were going to reattempt it in 2022, but they never did. And so I heard about it, so I started kind of turning the wheels and went into the calculate mode. So you get the dream, and now you got to start putting some pencil on paper to see how this whole thing is going to work out. So the calculation phase, I'll tell you, the route that I'm going to show you probably had 10 different iterations. Until I had the rules, I wasn't really sure exactly how it should be laid out. I thought you had to have a landing in every state on the clock. But as it turns out, the clock starts when you take off from your first state. So you don't actually have to land in that state on the clock if you follow me. So there's 47 legs between the 48 states, and the clock starts when you take off from your first airport and stops when you land in the 48th state, okay? So, this is the airplane that I have, 1980 Piper Saratoga at Henry County Airport. You know about the statistics and specifications of that airplane, so I won't really get into it. So I started with this is ForeFlight. Some of you probably use that. I started with 4 lines on the map. So I figured I wanted to leave from the furthest southwest I could get in Michigan. And now you know you gotta go out and get Washington State. So I dropped the point on the border of Washington and Oregon, the most southeast point in Oregon. Well, now you gotta go down to California, pick up California, the extreme northeast corner of California. Then you gotta go get Florida, drop a point all the way down the northwest corner of Florida, and then we gotta go up and get Maine. So that's 4,381 miles, but it doesn't capture all the states, right? There's some states that are not touched, Arizona, New Mexico, and a bunch of them in there. So now you gotta alter that line to go capture all of the other state boundaries. So I did that. So now this, you just take that line and pull it over to capture all the states, either by touching it or flying over it. And so this set of lines captures all those states in 4,726 miles. But we're not in a helicopter, so we can't, fly that. We got to go to airports. So now I brought airports into the equation, and that's where the route came up with 5,008 miles. Which, I don't know. If this is the shortest way, I did find a shorter route, a different way, but this was I think this is pretty close to the shortest that you can get around the track. So now that I got the route, there's some coordination that has to go on. And the big part of the coordination initially was these red airports underneath the red there. So those are nighttime or outside of normal working hour airports. So during the calculation, I figured that this portion of the route out here, there are mountains out there, right? Single engine airplane, probably not a good idea to be out there in the dark, right? So I planned it to where when we get to Sheridan, Wyoming, when the mountains start, we want to be there right as the sun's coming up over our back. And that drove the takeoff time out of Berrien Springs, Michigan, from our airport there around 10:30 in the evening on a Sunday night. So how many of those airports along there are open? They're outside of normal working hours, right? And then you've got the other outside of normal working hours down here in the south. Initially, when I planned the route, I looked at it to go to airports that were open 24 hours because we need a signature from somebody at each airport to validate that we've been there. So you go to an airport that's got a 24-hour FBO, there's going to be somebody there, you get your signature. But by doing that, it added 550 miles to the route. So I thought, well, what if we go with the mid-distance route, the 5,008, and call these people and say, hey, will you come out at 2 o'clock in the morning for a signature on a form for this Guinness World Record? And I'll tell you that all but one airport, which I hate to mention, but it was Brewton, Alabama. I couldn't get them on board, but every other airport I got on board. Now some were going to charge fees, call-out fees, right? Which, they come out, they got to pay somebody to come out there in the middle of the night, overtime, whatever. So, but I figured that was worth the expense of the trip, and we would take that out of the, his expenses and go with it that way. So that's the route that we went with when we got everybody on board that they would come out and meet us. And it equated to can't read the number, but it was close to $1,000 in call-out fees. But I had all the airports on board, and that's the way we're going to go. We also had an operations coordination center set up so that we had 8 flight coordinators at the Henry County Airport that 24 hours while Aaron and I and Thomas were out flying around the track, they would be there coordinating. Their job was to call ahead to the airport and let them know that we're coming. They were there to check the weather. They're all pilots. They check the weather, they check the NOTAMs. They're a backup to us in the cockpit. They can file a flight plan if need be, right from the control coordination center, and take that load off of us. If we needed to change airports, they would do that in here, and Aaron and I wouldn't have to do that in the airplane, so it was worth its weight in gold for sure. And I think this is the last leg. We're getting close to heading to Maine here, and everybody's out at the airport excited what's going on. And, holy crap. Rex, did you get my presentation? Rex wanted me to show this. The words are anything for a donation. And I threw this in the coordination section because this turned into be a fundraiser for a very good cause that I'll talk about at the end. And I was willing to drop my trowel in a meeting and give my presentation for some donations. And the group I gave it to was very gracious, and it contributed significantly to the donation. So, Rex,
Want to see how much you can raise tonight?
What's that? We're done with donations. And then the last part is to execute. We've calculated, we've coordinated, and then this dream has turned all the way around to where now we're going to go for it and we're going to execute. And this is where I talk about my other 2 crew members. So Aaron Wilson on our left there, my right. We were flying one day. We got assigned a trip to Florida and back. I'd never met him before, and he'd never met me. And we get in the cockpit, we start doing our duties there at Delta, and within the first 5 minutes, you know, you can tell if you're with somebody solid or not. And I knew that I was with somebody that was extremely solid. And then not to boot that he grew up in this small town of Put-in Bay, Ohio, out on the island, out on South Bass Island, and went to high school, was one of 5 graduates from Put-in Bay High School, and got the bug when he was a teenager, I guess, or early on when he was flying on and off the island in the wintertime and stuff. Went to Bowling Green State University, started in the flight program, and then transitioned, thought, well, you know what, I'm going to try and get myself an ROTC scholarship, which he did, and got a flight slot, went on to fly C-17s, active duty in the Air Force, and is still currently serving at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, flying C-17s down there. So thank you, Aaron, for your service. Plus, he had a lot of time in a Piper Saratoga airplane. So it's just funny how they all meshed together right there. Very blessed to have him. The gentleman on our right, Thomas Twitty, he and I had a Navy connection all the way back to 1995 when I was a maintenance officer in an F-18 squadron on the East Coast on the Enterprise. And he was my maintenance material control officer, basically the production control officer of the maintenance of 12 F-18s in the squadron. And he would impress me then. He's a by-the-book kind of guy that does things the right way. And we kind of lost connection with each other for about 15, 20 years. We got reconnected. He runs a repair station down in Savannah, Tennessee. And so that's where I take my airplane now for scheduled maintenance and avionics upgrades down to him. And had him on board as our in-flight technician, had a toolbox, had a couple tires, had some spark plugs, and some stuff that he thought we might need. And if anything broke down, he was there to fix it, what he could fix, and keep us rolling. So it was great having him on. And just another member of the crew, I told you that with every stop, we got to get a signature. So we didn't ever shut the Saratoga down when we weren't taking fuel. We just idled in the line. The person in the back door that was back there would jump out with a clipboard, get the signature, take a picture, give them a Sharpie to the side of the airplane, give them a gift bag of stuff that we had put together for them, jump back in the airplane, take off, fly to the next airport, do it all over again. So that was our kind of our battle rhythm between fuel stops, what we were doing. This is the night that we left Henry County Airport. Russ Borselman, buddy of mine, has a T-34, and he flew in formation with us, had a cameraman in the back seat. Couldn't have timed the sunset picture there any better. This is in Wayne, Nebraska. 1 o'clock in the morning, we show up there, there's 3 people waiting for us, and they spelled out 48 on the hangar door to welcome us coming in there. It was just incredible, the support that airports put out for us when we got there. And there was, at every airport, except one, the people were out there waiting for us when we got there. We didn't have to go into an FBO and track anybody down. And that was part of that coordination from the coordination center, where they would call ahead. They knew the deal, and they were all out there waiting for us. There's Aaron, scary night going into Hettinger, North Dakota, I think. This is a gal in Mason City, Iowa. She saw what we were doing on Facebook, and she sent me a message and said, "Hey, I don't know where you guys are landing in Iowa. I can't see on the map too well, but we're in Mason City, and we would love to host you." Again, this is 2 o'clock in the morning that we're talking here. Her and her dad run the FBO out there. So it just so happened that Mason City was right on the line from Minnesota going down to Nebraska, to change the airport to Mason City, and had Jessica take care of us there. This is coming into Sheridan, Wyoming, just as it's just starting to get light. Sun's starting to come up, just like we planned for the mountain portion. This is some northern Rocky stuff over Montana, I think. Going into Idaho. And Aaron and I have both seen this landscape from 35,000 feet. You know, a Delta Airlines airplane, but we've never seen it down at 1,000 to 2,000 feet above the rocks. So it was a really pretty cool perspective. Flies 35,000 feet. This was in Livingston, Montana. This gal is a fiance then of my brother-in-law's brother, the Matthias family in Napoleon. So his whole family, this is his brother and his other brother. His 2 brothers came out to meet us in Livingston. They live out in Bozeman. So they drove over to Livingston to come see us. I saw his parents, my son-in-law's parents, in New Mexico, in Rattan, New Mexico. And my son-in-law and his wife were in Napoleon when we took off. So I saw the whole Matthias family around the country on this one trip. That was a little... Bowling Green was a huge supporter of the project. So I took a picture with my Bowling Green socks in there out the window, so they could throw it on their social media, both Falcons. So here's the in-flight technician at work. We got to Walla Walla, Washington, and that was one of our fuel stops. And I looked at the gear door, and there was a little drip of oil on the trailing edge of the gear door. And Thomas had just put an engine monitor in at the annual inspection in April. So he pulled the cowling off, saw there's a little bit of weeping oil from the oil temperature sensor on the top of the block that he had put in during the installation of the engine monitor. Got a wrench out, put about a quarter of a turn on it, and that took care of it. That was the sum total of the maintenance we did the entire trip. This is the stop where somebody wasn't there when we got to the airport. So we were going from Washington to Oregon. It's an hour and 40-minute leg, long leg. My son-in-law was on the duty in the coordination center. He calls the person that's, hey, they're en route, they're coming. He's got a fuel spill on the other side of the airplane, on the airport, on a fuel truck, and says he's not going to be there. course, my son was, hey, these guys are setting the Guinness World Records, you know, screw the fuel leak, you know. No, kidding. Of course, he can't go running away from it. So my son-in-law gets on the phone, calls the police department, the local police station, and said, hey, this is what's going on, blah, 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 blah. A little reluctant at first, but next thing you know, we got John Q. Law out there to sign our logbook. Had to look around for him a little bit. We went to our first spot and had to taxi a little bit to get to where he was at, but we found him and he gave us our signature that we needed and we got on our way. But all that was done back in the coordination center, you know, and we would have gotten there and the person wouldn't have been there, and then somebody would, you know, the person with the logbook would have jumped out and run around the airport to try to find somebody to, you know, to sign the log. So this is just out of Page, Arizona. You know, the southern part of the mountains out there, the Rockies, completely different look from the north. This is, again, this is out of Page, and this is the kind of the mesas out there. This is probably some of the most interesting landscape, you know, I've ever seen from that perspective. We got down close to the bases a couple times. It was pretty impressive. But you can see, this is not the kind of stuff you'd want to go down in the daytime, let alone at nighttime when it's all black. At least in the daytime, you can, okay, maybe get the flattest spot you can to where we can get this thing on the ground and stop. We picked up a passenger in Crestview, Florida, excuse me, and flew him to Atlanta. You might not recognize him there, but you probably see him more like that. That's Mike Seidel from the Weather Channel. He was a meteorologist. He gave me some meteorological support, and he wanted to go along the whole trip. But I had to convince him that I didn't have the weight and balance for it, and 3 was enough. Really, to have a 4th person in the airplane would have really, we'd have had to be, you know, been down on fuel every stop, because of the 3 of us in there with the gear that we had topped off, we were right at gross weight for takeoff. So we were down on fuel and we picked him up and flew him to Atlanta. In Atlanta, we had a meeting. Delta rolled the red carpet out for us. That's Aaron and I's big boss, John Lauder. He's the operations head there at Delta Airlines. So he came and spent the whole time with us out on the ramp talking about our mission and what we were doing, and it was pretty incredible. Pulled us right up next to an A321. And this is us at the finish line up in Portland, Maine. Still friends. Smelled a little different. At least I did. Then on our way back, I don't know if any of you saw it, but we did a little flight-aware spell out, 48 over the top of Henry County Airport. The plan was to do it down over the top of Huffman Prairie Flying Field down in Dayton, because this is the 200th, I think, no, 03. So the 120th year of Wilbur and Orville's first flight down at Kitty Hawk, right? December 1903. So this was 2023, so it's 120 years, and it's kind of commemorate that, if you will. So I was going to do it down there, and once we got up in the air, flying from Portland back to Henry County, I looked at the route and everything, and we knew we had people back at Henry County waiting for us. I looked over at Aaron and I said, this is not going to work out. We're going to be way late if we go down over Huffman Prairie, over Dayton, spell this thing out, and then head to Henry County. So I said, I think we're going to have to do this over the top of Henry County. He looks at me and says, well, you got 3 hours to plan it. So I got on ForeFlight, and you can go into the scratch pad mode over a map in ForeFlight if you've ever done that. I just drew 48 on the map, and then once we got there, you just fly the airplane right over the top of the line that you drew, and that's how it comes out. Trade secrets. So some statistics, we did it in 44 hours and 13 minutes. And from the spreadsheet that we created before we took off, it was 42 minutes over the plan that I had planned with everything considered. So we took off from Berrien Springs at 10:30 at night, landed in Portland, Oregon on Tuesday the 6th at 6:42. The flight time was 36 hours, 8 minutes, which is 20 minutes actually under plan. So we underflew our flight time between airports. So I pretty much nailed that one. The longest flight was an hour and 45 minutes from our California to Nevada leg, and the shortest leg was 12 minutes going from Massachusetts to New Hampshire. Up in the Northeast, those airports came pretty quick. They're pretty close together. So the average no-fuel ground time was 7 minutes, 53 seconds. 7 seconds under the plan. So I had planned in my spreadsheet 8 minutes on the ground to get a signature, take a picture, let them sign the airplane, give them a gift bag, jump in the airplane, taxi, and take off. So we did that nailed it. 8 minutes, a little bit under. The average fuel ground time where we topped off and took fuel was 28 minutes and 20 seconds, which is 10 minutes over the plan. So I planned 18 minutes on the ground to get topped off, swap seats, positions, with the crew rotation, and then get back in the air. And we did it in 28. So it's like, how could you have been off so much in your planning? Because we did a test run, and we were doing it in like 15 minutes. And I'll get to why we busted those. So we had 2 airports that changed during the mission, our Oklahoma and Maine airports, all done in the coordination center. They just told us at Oklahoma, you're going to this airport instead. We changed it before flight, and in the Garmin 530, there was a person there just like it was a primary airport, just seamless. So there's a departure arrival. It ended up being 5,256 miles. That takes into account all the pattern maneuvering. So you can see it's about 200 plus miles more, 250 miles more than the between airports, just to do a downwind or whatever entry you're going to do into the pattern. That's all there. 146 knots, average ground speed. The black dots are fuel stops. And just so you know, I flew the first leg. Aaron flew the next 2 legs down to Page, Arizona, and then I flew the next 2 legs to Atlanta, and then Aaron flew the leg to Frederick, Maryland, and they were both up front for the last leg to Maine. So, pillars of success. We knew that this is just not a boondoggle to go out and fly around the country and set a Guinness World Record. We had some goals that we wanted to achieve in the mission of 4848. And those pillars were to promote, inspire, to give. And I'll show you each on how we think we did on those. So to promote, there's a picture of an airport, relatively small airport, right? Anybody know?
Houston?
Negative. Who said Atlanta? Atlanta Hartsfield Airport. Busiest airport in the world. Why in God's name would you land at the busiest airport in the world when you're setting a Guinness World Record? That's what Aaron said to me. Well, especially when the pattern maneuvering. This is a 13-mile final. They took us over the top of the airport at 6,000 feet, turned us on a right downwind, hook descent, 13-mile final for runway 26 right in Atlanta. Obviously, we're not intimidated by landing in Atlanta. We do that all the time, so that's not a factor, but time-wise, it did add some time going in there. I think they stuck us between a 717 and a 767, and I told them I can give you 150 knots till a 1-mile final. And they just built that hole, put us in there, and down we came, and it was not a big deal for them. And this is a typical flight pattern, right? So this is going into Louisiana, 1.2-mile final. So Atlanta was a lot more. So why? And I already showed you why. You know, we got there, Delta got on board kind of at the last minute. I was talking to them, and they wanted to do their social media and media outlets to promote this, and they did, and they came out, and our big boss came and spent the whole time we were on the ground there and did some pretty nice articles on us that pushed out really to the world. They put it on their Delta News Network, which goes out to I don't know, thousands and thousands and thousands, if not millions of people. So it was good from the promotion standpoint. And then the second one is pillar was to, well, this is still promote. So this is the Delta News Hub that gets put out, and it talked about 4848 Veterans Airlift Command, and they talked a little bit about our mission of Veterans Airlift Command. So this is just one of their posts that they did, and to this day, if you go on to that Delta News Network and look at the home page under people, there's Tom Brady. Right next to Tom Brady and our CEO, Ed Bastian, is Aaron and I down there sitting in Saratoga. That's not Photoshop, by the way. That's really what it is, so pretty cool. Who's Tom Brady? Bowling Green was, they got on board. They wanted to help promote their school and stuff, so they had a day once Aaron and I got back, and at the school there, that's President Rogers sign on the side of the airplane, and that's Aaron and some of his family with Frida and Freddie. So that was a good day. Promoting. And then the second pillar is to inspire, and inspire the next generation of pilots. So we were going into Coffeyville, Kansas. Anybody ever heard or been to Coffeyville, Kansas? You have? I had. Never been there. It's a population of about 9,000 people, about the size of Napoleon, Ohio, my hometown, so it's a really small town. And we got a heads up from the coordination center that there's some people meeting us. Well, people have met us at all the airports, so what's different about this one? So we pull into Coffeyville about 11:30 at night, and there's close to 50 people standing out there on the ramp in the middle of the night in Coffeyville. And I'm like, I looked at what was out there, and we weren't supposed to take fuel here. We were supposed to take fuel in the next stop in Missouri. And I told the guys, I was like, we got to shut down here. We just can't do our 8-minute roll in and roll out deal. We got to talk to these people. So we shut down, took fuel, got out and met the people at Coffeyville. I had a bag of t-shirts in the back that I was going to hand out along the way, and it came to my mind, I got the t-shirts in the back. So I pulled those out. It was like chum in the water with sharks. It was a feeding with these t-shirts going out. And these little 6-year-old girls came up and they had their t-shirts. Give them their t-shirt. And the next thing you know, there they are. Would you sign our t-shirt? Negative, kid. We're setting a Guinness World Record here. Get out of here. No. We signed their t-shirts and the next one. And the next one, because you know how that goes, the next one lines up and so on. So this is one of the reasons why I planned for 18 minutes at a stop. This didn't take us 18 minutes. This took us, probably, it was over 30 minutes that we were on the ground in Coffeyville. But it was the right thing to do, right? Record aside, you know, we're going to still do that, but this is important stuff to people. So that became more and more apparent during our time through the mission. That the record is cool and everything, and everybody looks at that, but that's the stuff that really has the meaning behind it. And then we had a fly day at the Henry County Airport on the 24th of June. Flew about 100 people into Saratoga. This is the mayor, Napoleon, and his family that went flying with us, and some other folks. It was just a great day, great weather day. And then this is the Henry County Fair, the Tomato Festival Parade. Again, Jenny had to go through all this wild harebrained idea. She's like, you want to do what? Measured it all out. So she didn't believe me, so we took a 40-foot rope, length of rope, on our bikes, rode down the parade route and said, okay, those signs look kind of close there. Hold on to this rope. I'd go running across the street, fold it up, see, it'll fit. And did that down the whole route and found out that it would work. So then I went to the city and told the city that I wanted to do, and went to the fair board. And they sent me on a wild goose chase to contact ODOT to get a road permit to pull an airplane down it. Don't try it if you ever want to do it, because they won't approve it, because it's not a roadworthy vehicle. If you put it on a trailer, you're okay, but you can't just pull the airplane down the road. So I got a little frustrated. I called my state senator and I need some help. And we talked to this person, that person, and then I talked to the sheriff and Sheriff Bodenbender in Henry County there, wonderful guy. Said, tell me what you need, where you need my deputies, we'll close the road. It was 700 feet to get from the runway that I landed on to the city limits. That's all I needed, you know, so he came and he escorted 4 o'clock in the morning. We towed the airplane that direction, up the street, up Perry Street to the staging area. And then this is during the parade, coming the other direction during the parade. It was awesome. And then on Monday morning, we pulled it out of a staging area and then stuck it in the parade for 4 days and had a steady stream of people and kids, and because it's not every day you have an airplane, it's a fair, you know, and it just worked out to where the logistics and the runway and everything that was there worked out perfectly. It took more coordination to do this though than the 48 flight, I'll tell you that. And then the last pillar is to give. So I knew, based on dropping down to my boxers, that I was going to have more money than expenses. And we needed to come up with an organization that we're going to partner with that we can give to a great cause. So we chose the Veterans Airlift Command. It's an organization that provides cost-free transportation to combat wounded veterans for the medical and compassion needs. They set up the transportation. There's a network of pilots that register with the VAC, and then the VAC gets a need from a point A to point B. They put the blast email out to their network of pilots. They got this wounded warrior needs to get from here to here, and who will jump on it to take them on that trip. So that's what the VAC does. And on our trip, we were on the way up the East Coast. Frederick, Maryland was our fuel stop. And I get a text message from Walt Fricke. He's the founding president of the Veterans Airlift Command. He says, hey, I see you guys coming up the East Coast. You want lunch at your fuel stop in Frederick? I asked the guys, I was like, hey, you guys want lunch? Sure. Then we kind of went around about, what do we want, you know? And I said, okay, let's make it easy. Let's Subway easy sandwiches to make it easy on whoever's getting the meals. So we put our Subway order in with this gentleman that was coming to bring us lunch. Land in Frederick, get out, and this is Adam, the gentleman that brought us our lunch. He's an advisory board member for the Veterans Airlift Command. He lost his left arm and his right leg to an improvised explosive device in Iraq. So he's a direct person of the VAC and who they support, and it was incredible to spend that time with them on the ramp and talk to him and such. Another reason why 18 minutes wasn't enough. So, in the end, Jenny and I went up to Oshkosh. Walt has his motorhome with the VAC stuff on it, and we delivered him a check for $34,848.48 is what, yeah, a little 48 play in there. But basically $35,000 that we raised for the Veterans Airlift Command and presented them with that up in Oshkosh. And then just some other cool things. We had a day Thursday before we took off on Sunday. The people of Put-in-Bay, Aaron's aunt had a lot to do with this, made a flag, had it in the library there at Put-in-Bay, and all kinds of people. You can see the number of signatures on there wishing us well on our trip, and so we went out there and spent some time with the folks at Put-in-Bay. Lovely people out there, just an awesome day, getting their support for what we were doing. Bowling Green has a brewery called Brewing Green. So when the Veterans Airlift Command pilots are on their mission, their ATC call sign is Hero. So every pilot's designated a number. So Hero 12, he would always, when he's flying a VAC mission, he'd use that call sign when you file your IFR flight plan or whatever. So I wanted to use that call sign, so I asked Walt, I said, hey, can we use the Hero call sign for this trip since we're connected with VAC? And he said, absolutely. He said, why don't you use Hero 48? I was already going to ask for 48, but yeah, so he let us use Hero 48. That was our call sign for the whole trip. And we went to Brewing Green and asked if they would partner with us for a fundraiser to brew a beer that was Hero 48 beer. So they did. That's the little logo for it there. And the proceeds from the beer that they sold came to us at 4848 that went into the $34,000 check that we wrote to Walt. So they're a great place. It's a veteran family. And then we got the record. You know, everybody's cool. So it's the fastest journey by plane through all 48 contiguous U.S. states as a team. 1 day, 20 hours, 13 minutes, achieved by myself, Aaron, and that's it. And then the team members, Thomas Twitty and the flight coordinators that are down there. So we're in the book. Sweet. And then there were some unintended consequences. This is the night that we left Henry County. I never expected this many people to be enthused with this thing, but it was a great rally for the Napoleon, Henry County area, and a lot of that was due to this guy, Dave Fleck. He's the voice of Napoleon on 103.1. He got into it, and he was on the radio every day almost talking about what 48. I'd get a text message from him. We're en route to Washington over Idaho, and he said, Barry, can you do a live spot here? What time are you going to be on, can I talk to you? So I knew what our time was going to be landing because we had that pretty much nailed. So I'd tell him, and I'd call him up, and we'd do a live spot. We did a live spot in Washington, and then down in Arizona, and another one up on the East Coast. So he was keeping track of us, keeping everybody at the Napoleon radio station, up to date with what we were doing. So great guy. And that's all I have. And if there's any questions anybody would have, I'd be happy to ask.